Particularly during my time at GEO, there has been great progress on a couple of fronts that we really care about. I remember when I first got started, the idea of giving flexible dollars was seen as unstrategic and kind of sloppy grant making. And so that's something that we really care about, because we know that flexible dollars are the lifeblood of nonprofit organizations. So 15 years ago, when I entered this role, it would have been commonplace for people in meetings to say, oh gosh, you should never give general operating support. That's not a good form of philanthropy. And now that would be unheard of. No one would question the importance of flexible dollars. Another shift that I think has been really productive, I think we kind of in the US went too far to one direction before kind of coming back around, is related to evaluation and learning. I believe that once we kind of took on this work with gusto, the field of philanthropy, and I think we went a little too far down the path of proof and trying to very nail down outcomes in a very specific way. But I think that we've gotten smarter about it. The evolution has been that the focus has become more about learning and improvement rather than proof. The trustees are asking questions that are quite relevant to their previous lives. They're asking the right questions for a corporate boardroom, but the wrong questions, to be frank, for the work that they're in philanthropy. There was a whole movement 10 years ago to try to nail down a specific number of social return on investment. And that, of course, pleased the heck out of people who are more accustomed to having, easy metrics like profitability and those sorts of things. But it isn't really real. And the data that you draw to come up with a number like that doesn't give you the nuanced understanding of, if you're working with formerly incarcerated individuals to try to get them into work. It doesn't tell you, well, when you're working with someone who has a learning disability or who has been in for twice the amount of time as another person, what's the different kinds of services that they need to be successful. The thing that I'm most excited about is the fact that folks are actually working on building their collaborative muscles. I think more and more foundations are recognizing that they can't do this alone. That any work that's going to be meaningful and powerful is going to take a long time, and it's going to require partners of all sorts, fellow funders, true partnerships with the leading advocates and the leading organizations in their fields of work, potentially with government and business. And it's something that we're not overly good at as of yet, and so it's definitely the frontier. There have been some great examples of very powerful work where collaborations of funders and nonprofits have just gone after something for the time necessary to make a difference. And one of those examples is marriage equality in the United States. There's a fantastic story of the funders who are behind that and the time they spent to build relationships, to align their strategies, to have the fortitude to weather the losses that happened. Well, so the wild card is always the economy. So the biggest ebbs and flows that happen in our work have to do with asset size. And my hope is that foundations recognize the cyclical nature as well and have some mechanisms in place so that they don't have to curtail their giving quite so aggressively just at the moment that poor people are suffering even more, that federal, state, and local budgets are even tighter. So I think that always the economy is the wild card. Other wild cards for us in the United States have to do with the federal government's treatment of our tax status as foundations. So every once in a while there's murmurings that come up in the Senate about whether and if foundations and large endowments like those held by universities should be as tax advantaged as they are. And then I guess the final wild card is always the new entrants, right? There's, I would say that sometimes we have clumsy new entrants like Mark Zuckerberg. He sort of has made some splashy yet maybe not fully effective early grants. But the good news about what I've been reading about Mark Zuckerberg and his wife is that they are very fast learners, and so they are recognizing what might have not gone as well with their early gifts and making those adjustments. So there's always a new big player that comes in that is trying to revolutionize or recreate the way that philanthropy is done, and sometimes for the good, and oftentimes maybe they would have been better off having kind of learned from those who've come before. Well, this is my third time to New Zealand in a professional capacity, and it's always just such a joy. The connection between the spirit of the culture of Kiwis and the values that undergird Maori community are so well suited to philanthropy and to nonprofit work there's a sophistication in New Zealand philanthropy that I'm always impressed by. One of the things that I think that your field is world class at is engaging with community and ensuring that decisions are, if not driven by, at least there's a consultation process with those that you're trying to serve. And we see that as one of the keystone habits of good foundations, is making certain that you're incredibly well connected with those that you're trying to serve. So it's a way in which we in U.S. philanthropy could learn a lot from our colleagues in the Southern Hemisphere in New Zealand.